Assalamu alaikum fam, hope you're doing fantastic. So, one of the reasons why I really want to help a lot of women break free from a lot of the feminist, liberal, atheist mindset of selling your body for money and seeing nudity, lewdness, immodesty as something beneficial to society is because so many young girls have a hyper distorted view of themselves, of their self worth, because of how a price tag has been placed upon them in terms of OnlyFans views, in terms of how many people will watch their videos and they'll get ad content, and how many women spend so much of their hard earned money on silly things as such as makeup, which literally just wash down the drain, and how this is a quite sad thing. If you've ever met some of these secretly broken women who look very beautiful on screen, you'd be surprised. And one porn star in particular, I won't name her, but she, when I was still in my jahiliyyah and in my porn addiction, I thought she was just the most beautiful, confident, woman ever. And she ended up not wanting to do a scene with a gay guy. And the porn community went after her and called her a bigot and said, "You're a bigot because, you worry about AIDS and STDs because he's gay, you're this, you're that." And the same people who pushed her into that lifestyle, who glorified that lifestyle, caused her to commit suicide. And I remember this was back in the day before I was banned on Twitter. I went to his page and saw him, and I left some rude comment, right? But I was shocked at that because here this woman had spent a lot of money on plastic surgery, the best makeup, best looking nails, right? Yet she was ostracized for having some type of control over her body and what she wants to do with it, and that her beauty didn't save her from self-hatred, right? And I thought, wow, this is amazing because she's so beautiful, yet she didn't want to stay on to life. She wanted to leave Earth. And I thought, if you're so beautiful like her, the world is your apple, of course you're going to be happy because you are stunning. And men will probably just fall at your feet. But then, you start to realize that beauty doesn't secure happiness. And a lot of women today are programmed to think self-worth comes from exposing your cleavage, showing your thongs, alluring men constantly. So when I was able to start to, by the permission of Allah, break free from this, I wanted to help other young girls do this because a lot of women are stuck in that mindset. Not all of them want to be free. Some of them want to copy Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. Some of them desire to learn the hard way. And when I grew up, essentially, another point, without somebody forcing me and really digging into me, like your behavior, the way you're dressing is bad, modesty is good, by people permitting me to do things that would harm myself, essentially causing what my own hands brought forth, I was upset that no one ever really sat me down and had a tense, raw, blunt discussion, very direct discussion. They permitted, and what they permitted bit me back. And I think that more and more women, if we were brutally honest with ourselves, feminists used to be more honest. Like 2005, 2006, they were against the objectification of women. And then they kind of went off the rails with the fat acceptance movement, with free bleeding, which is where they don't wear a period pad and they just bleed in their pants, growing out their armpit hair. Like they went a totally different route, right? But there was a time, I remember, when moderate, pretty rational feminists were like, porn isn't freedom, and, being a sex doll is tiring after a certain point. And you just want to relax and be a mother and not always have to be stimulating a man and, taking the time to always be anxious about what you look like and make sure you're just a walking beautified mannequin automaton, right? So when some people don't understand how people like me who grew up in the 90s where we were totally brainwashed into behaving in ways like Christina Aguilera, Beyonce, and that this did not lead us to getting Prince Charming, rather it attracted dangerous thug men and also men who were wealthy and totally not into marrying you, but just using you and discarding you. And that the religious people were right that you should be, classy, you should cover up, you should, be more moral and not be around a bunch of sin. And that the way you dress affects how you feel about yourself, and it affects your mood. It affects the way you operate within your body, the way you view yourself. Because the tighter your clothes are, the more you see your imperfections, the more you see you're fat. It does a lot. Now, you need a big sister in life sometimes to give it to you good, to tell you like, hey, this ain't good. And because motherhood has collapsed, and even the word mother is being applied to people with dogs, guys in dresses, plastic surgeons are creating mothers, because the word is diluted and we've lost traditional religious morality around feminine virtues, this has caused a disruption, right? We are now ruled by women who have multiple personas, multiple egos, split personality disorders, heavily addicted to narcotics, and who sell their bodies to producers, to lots of people. And this is very damaging towards morality and ethics of a country and keeping, families unified. I grew up in a very broken family, and I have passion now that I've been freed from that sort of black veil over my eyes. And when you start to see the light, the beauty, and the wisdom, you get passionate, motivated to share it. And it's not an overcompensation. Some people say, oh, it's overcompensation that you're always hard on other women. Why don't you just let them be like that? Well, if somebody was cutting their arm with a razor and you said, just let them do that, would you let them do that? No. I have seen girls who have cut up their arms. I even did that when I was younger. I understand what it's like when you are used by men, you see yourself as beautiful, but then you don't, and then you cut yourself. It's a very dark road. So being easy and allowing a level of nudity and debauchery and lewdness and voyeurism in public, on the media, and thinking that will have zero consequences on how wives behave, how men view and treat women, this is something that I feel is not very honest. And one reason why it's not as honest is because the old saying of sex sells, right? And that, somebody is paying to keep up all that free access to porn, keeping men at a very low level of consciousness, a society that pumps out massive amounts of degeneracy and says they want to legalize, tax, and regulate all drugs and has abortion mills everywhere. You got to start wondering, it's not a very spiritual environment. It's something that you would see maybe in the catacombs of Babylon. And other girls, I've tried to actually help girls. See, people who judge me as being too hard on women, they probably haven't had to have the tough conversations with girls who want to quit prostitution, but they've been conditioned by their pimp through force, and they're afraid, and they have a broken, mentally, almost mind-controlled brain to where they are destroyed inside internally. And they're crippled by drug addiction, and they lack spirituality. And to break them free takes not always the same tone. Sometimes you have to have a soft tone, and other times you got to tell it to them like it is. And you're not doing anyone a favor if you let them continue in sin that puts them in risky situations and can make their mental health, their self-esteem lower. right? Breaking free from makeup, fashion, vanity, pompousness, grandeur, these things make you more content with life. They make you less envious. They make you, inshallah, more permissible for struggle, strife, and deprivation. The gold digger mentality and the plastic surgery creations have been pumped out for a specific reason. And when you have women who judge each other by clothes, plastic surgery, how many abortions they've had, how many men they've gold dug into, how much they go to party at night, how much they spend on the drinks at the bar, how many drugs they can take while still dancing, how much they got for showing, their anus to someone. This creates a very twisted hole of reality that dives people deeper and deeper into a pit of despair that they then try to medicate through drugs. Okay? And a lot of them suffer and don't know how to stop. And if you just say, let them be free, don't be hard on them, you're bad, you're this. I know what it's like to be around those people. And I know the pain you feel inside when you want to help someone but you can't. So don't think that I'm arbitrarily hard on women. No, it's that you have to be a different voice sometimes, okay? So change is hard and has to be done. And sometimes you need the stick method and sometimes the carrot method, which is you reward and then others you strive. A horse doesn't always go because you went click, 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 you right? No, sometimes a horse will go because you had a stick and you're like whacking it and like go, 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 right? Sometimes people gotta go where you need to lead them to a better abode by a pressure campaign, but also through a nice voice. You can't just have only one style. And so me, when I'm trying to reach these women through the digital waves, I have to sometimes be nice and motivational, and other times raw and more direct. So, when you have the music industry glamorizing that lifestyle, not showing you the dark side, not showing you the women who are selling themselves in the street and have father issues and they're lonely and they won't put a pipe down, they don't show you that. And when you're trying to get someone to stop, it's very difficult. And a lot of the women, for example, they want to lose weight, so they smoke crystal meth. And crystal meth makes you violent. It starts to deteriorate your beauty. And then when those women are high and they haven't slept for 5 days and they're about to go do another, sexual liberation orgy party, they look in the mirror and they can see the health effects from the chemical substances in the meth they're smoking, and they hate themselves, so they smoke more so they can forget, so they can escape reality. And then the cycle continues until their teeth are rotting out, until they're scratching their faces, until they are viciously violent and hallucinating and in jail. So when you're trying to snap someone out of that satanic hold, you cannot always be nice or always be mean. And sometimes people have to see an alternative path and they have to hear a contrarian point. And so if you're not part of the change, if you're not actually doing anything to get people to stop that degenerate behavior, you should not judge those of us who are trying and those of us who grew up into it. If you had a good mom and you had a good dad, awesome. But you don't get to tell us, the victims of the very lifestyle we speak of, how to feel, how to talk, how to behave. Because you didn't go through it and you didn't live through it and you're not helping. So it's easy for you to just think, oh, Mom, she's so harsh, she's so mean, is she overcompensating, being too strict on these women? It's like, have you taken a look around? Have you seen how many strip clubs there are? How many women have STDs? How many women complain of mental illness and they can't get help and they have permanent damage? When you smoke crystal meth, you get schizophrenia forever. Do you understand? So if women are trying to lose weight so they look good in their dress for Instagram, or they want to be the skinniest chick at the orgy party, well, guess what? They're going to use that drug. They're going to say, oh, I can stop it. I can stop it. Next week. And time goes by because they're in a warped reality where when they get high, they don't even recognize time. They're in a different dimension when they're high. The horror stories that drug addicts will tell you and porn stars, you'll see them as broken, fractured people behind the camera. Okay? And when you have musicians and actors who are paid to sell this illusion to young girls, who could be your daughter, your mother, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, your neighbor, your coworker whom you care about, your classmate, you'll begin to see that this consciousness that they are pushing onto people is definitely something that you have to be harsh against. So it's not that I'm just being harsh to the victim, as they say it, but the one who's perpetrating it. Because the one who's perpetrating it, you never know they come across this video. Maybe they might be impacted by my passionate, energetic speech and say, you know what? SubhanAllah, maybe I should change. Maybe this person is right. Because if everyone's like, yay, you go girl, go power, you're an empowered woman. You know, but then they see one person there with their arms folded, that can impact them more. If they scan a room and everyone's cheering and then they see one person in the crowd who is just staring at them, like, I don't support you, you can just see the body language, that can cause more of an impact. So online, where there are constant temptations of porn, and plenty of other YouTubers have spoken about, and scientists, all kinds of people, about how this actually makes a man's libido softer, how it makes women more hateful of themselves, how it is a sin according to traditional religious conceptions of morality, not the new kind that's like, you know, live and let live. No. And in a truly moral society, you want to keep that stuff really, you know, a lid on it. You don't want to unleash that into society because it makes children less safe. And a society that doesn't protect children is a society that cannot live. It cannot sustain itself. And I want my country, America, to do better. And I will speak about the topics that affect Americans and maybe people in other countries where the same pollution has not occurred can keep an eye out for it, especially in the digital age when Silicon Valley in California is promoting this through the internet, and more parents in other countries are going to work and leaving their, you know, kids on the phones and seeing this and being digitally groomed. Maybe they'll be more bold and say, you know what, I'm not going to let my kid be a part of this. I'm not going to sacrifice my kid to the altar of feminist liberal agendas to where she will get passed around by endless men and become a sort of lonely shell of a human being with mental illness, mental scars, PTSD, OCD, and other issues. So sad. I care.